Why I'm able to study 10 hours per day. Why I'm able to study 70 plus hours per week. How I studied for 12 hours a day for over a year. I think it's interesting that the trend now is who can study the most. I mean, it's motivating and everything, and I'm not gonna lie, we participated ourselves and it was kind of exhilarating. But what happened to all those people who flex about not having to study that much? And I'm not talking about the students who stay up all night in panic mode, cram before the test just to barely pass. I'm not talking about those students. I'm talking about the ones that spend less time studying because they're that confident in themselves and they still ace their exams. The ones that post how I only studied 2 hours a day or how I only studied 10,000 seconds for this exam. So some of these students are actual geniuses like photographic memory or Asperger's or whatever, and that's fine. But I'm pretty sure that the majority of these students who spend less time study do so because of their habits. So I'm gonna break down the 3 Ds, which is a simple framework you can use to spend less time studying. And these habits don't need to be applied to studying. It can be applied to any kind of work that you do, but for the sake of this video, I'm gonna talk about studying. And it's funny because as I went through school, high school, college, medical school, as I went through school, the more I figured out how to cut back on the amount of time I spent studying. So in high school, I was a total bookworm. I was a nerd and I was proud of it. But I've definitely spent a little too much time studying in the beginning. And I realized I had to make more time for other things. I had to make more time for sports. I needed to make more time for my girlfriend. And whenever I spent time with my best friends, we loved making skits and videos, and that took up a lot of our time. And that's when I knew that things had to change. And the first big habit for me, the first of the 3 Ds, is define. Define what you need to know. It sounds simple, but it's so underrated. Know what you need to know, forget the rest. So the first thing I would do is look at the syllabus. Some teachers tell you everything you need to know, and some even go a step further and tell you the exact percentile breakdown of what will be on the test. If your syllabus sucks, then go to the source directly. Ask the teacher. I would stay after class, go to office hours, but ask the teacher, will this be on the test? Okay, so maybe not be that blunt, because then the teacher might feel like you're only in this for the grade and you don't want to learn anything. So you're gonna kind of ask it strategically, like how important is this, or how would you quiz us on this, or how would you test us on this idea? Something like that. But be that kid who asks, will this be on the test? Because I guarantee you everyone in the class wants to know as well. So you're gonna be more popular if you just take one for the team and ask the hard questions. The next thing I would do is ask the upperclassmen, ask seniors who have already taken the class. Like I remember I asked a senior who had already taken an AP art history class before me, and she ended up giving me all of her notes, complete with highlighting, and she told me exactly what was gonna be on the test and what I should focus on. And yeah, it was amazing. So all I had to do was ask. And the third thing I would do is identify your weaknesses. You can do this by taking practice tests, doing practice problems, really pinpoint what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, because one of the biggest time-saving factors is to not waste time going over things that you already know. So that was my big takeaway from high school. I ended up doing pretty well. I graduated valedictorian of my class, and I tried applying to medical school straight out of high school. Unfortunately, it was a little too competitive, and I quickly realized that I was just not a very well-rounded student. I mean, I had the grades, but I didn't have anything else. So when I went to university, I knew things had to change because classes were going to be harder, and I had to make more time for extracurricular activities like clubs, sports, research, work, volunteering, and so on. So luckily in university, I figured out a second productive habit, which is the second D of our framework, and that is to go digital. So I was taking paper notes all throughout high school, and I don't think any of us had laptops actually. But when you get to college, you gotta seriously consider digital notes. And I'm not telling you to go out there and buy a MacBook or an iPad or anything like that, but you can definitely find an affordable option that will eventually pay off its worth in the amount of time that it helps you save. In my opinion, digital notes are superior to paper notes in every way. You got file management, makes it super portable. You can search for anything that you want, for any note, for any word that you want instantly with Control Find. You can manipulate images, PDFs, lecture slides, and you can share your notes with other students. Of course, you can save even more time if you just don't take any notes at all, but that's a different conversation, and you can find that here if you're interested. The second way to go digital is to take advantage of pre-recorded lectures. So most of my university professors had pre-recorded lectures, usually podcasts, recordings of their lectures from last year or years prior, and the content doesn't really change that much, and they'll post it onto the website. And so I would just download those and watch those on my own time, usually at 2 times or 3 times speed if I can handle it. I'll watch it in the comfort of my own home, and sometimes not even go to class, and that saves so much time. I mean, some classes have mandatory attendance, and there's nothing you can do about that, but when I was able to, I would skip class. But not only that, I realized that YouTube is an amazing source of pre-recorded lectures. You can find videos from companies like Princeton, Kaplan, Khan Academy. If you're in medical school like us, look at Osmosis, Sketchy Medical. You can even find fellow classmates with their own YouTube channels teaching the material better than the college professor. I mean, they have their own channels, they're trying to get their subs up, so, I mean, maybe you should even make a YouTube channel and employ the Feynman technique. Teach other classmates the content that you're learning, and while you're teaching them, you're learning as well, so it's win-win for everyone. And the third piece about going digital, and this was the real game changer for me, and that is using digital flashcards. You guys, I can't emphasize enough how powerful flashcards are. I mean, if I had to choose one thing to attribute my medical school success to, it would be digital flashcards. And the reason I say flashcards is because you're using active recall, spaced repetition, and interleaving all at the same time. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, check out this video right here. So with that said, your digital flashcards need to be a particular kind of flashcard. It has to have a built-in spaced repetition software. So the digital flashcard app that I started off using was called Anki, but as some of you already know, Maddie and I are working on a startup called Remnote, and obviously I'm biased here, but I think Remnote is the best flashcard app for students. So for those of you who don't understand the combination of spaced repetition and flashcards, basically what it is that you have flashcards on an app on your phone, and there's a built-in computer algorithm that evaluates your strengths and your weaknesses, and it creates a study schedule that helps you focus on your weaknesses, and you don't waste time with what you're already good at. And this overall cuts down on the amount of time that you spend studying. And make sure that you're studying flashcards on your phone. That's definitely the way to go, because you can take advantage of all the little moments where you're waiting in line at Starbucks, or you're on the metro, or you're in the elevator, or you're just walking to class. You can be studying your flashcards during all of those little minutes, and all those minutes add up, which ultimately subtracts from the total amount of time that you spend studying. And the reason why I say that Remnote is better than any other spaced repetition flashcard app out there is because it saves you even more time in that it automatically generates flashcards for you from the notes that you take. And we all know how much time it takes to make flashcards. Maddie and I have been through this. We know, we're trying to figure out all the inefficiencies here, and we're trying to build the tool that we wish we had when we were going through medical school. And for those of you who are lazy, like us, and you don't want to make your own flashcards and instead want to use someone else's, we got you covered there too. Maddie and I have been consolidating all of our medical school flashcards exclusively for Remnote, and we'll be sharing them with you bit by bit. So definitely check out Remnote. It's free to use, link in the description. Okay, so after university, I went to medical school, and I would say that there was a lot more quantity of knowledge to know, and it was more difficult, but I was still able to figure out a way to cut back on the amount of studying that I needed to do. And this takes us to the third habit, the third D in our framework, which is deep work. This comes from one of my favorite books by Cal Newport called Deep Work. And basically it means just being able to concentrate, being able to focus and get in the zone and get your shit done. So in regards to deep work, the first thing you gotta cut out of your life is multitasking. There's a lot of research that shows how multitasking can slow us down. And for those of you at home who are watching me talk about studying right now, while you're actually trying to study with your book open in front of you, I say much love, thanks for supporting the channel, but I guarantee you, if you just focus on studying when you say you should be studying, you'll end up saving a lot of time in the long run, and you can watch more of our videos with all the extra time that you save, and in the end, it'll be a win-win for both of us. So for deep work, that's the first thing I would do. I would stop multitasking. And the second thing I would do is use Pomodoro. If you really need to multitask, then Pomodoro is a great tool to use as well. So the way it works is that you wanna set a timer, so let's say half an hour up to an hour, and during that period, you really focus on the work in front of you. And after that period, you can set a timer for a break, say 15, 20 minutes. And during that break, you really focus on taking your break. Like if you're gonna watch anime, then watch anime. If you're gonna watch basketball or last night's game, then watch that. But use Pomodoro to keep your focus, and in a way, you kind of delay your gratification, because at the end of your study period, you know that there is a juicy episode just waiting for you. The third thing I would do for deep work is to make your focus time kind of like a ritual. Our brains are easily conditioned by things like rituals and habits, so definitely take advantage of that. So you want to have a designated spot in your apartment or the library or the coffee shop with a comfy seat, a reliable toilet nearby, and a study music playlist that you love. And you want to go there at the same time or around the same time every day that you plan to study. So you want to make this your spot and make it a ritual and stay so consistent that when that time of day rolls around and you sit your butt down into that seat, your brain is so wired and so familiar that it gets into deep work mode faster. And the faster you get into deep work mode, the less time you will spend studying. Trust me guys, these tips really do work if you want to spend less time studying so that you have more time for things like hobbies, friends and families, side hustles, and life. And by the way, if you don't want to spend less time studying, like if you're one of those weirdos who actually enjoys studying and you want to spend 10,000 hours a week studying, like that's perfectly fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But I guarantee you, if you employ these habits that I mentioned, your grades will go up. And if you want a sure way to get better grades, then you can check out our video about the best evidence-based study tips, which you can find by tapping on the screen right here. Thanks for watching this one, and I will see you there.